So that sets the tone for the morning. It's all going to be very exciting, and we're going to have some interesting speakers. And the next one, I can't actually find, we've been standing out there trying to work out the superlative adjective that I could use. It could be stupendous, it could be accomplished, it could be wonderful, it could be very, very well thought of. It could just be Sarah Brown is here to talk to us this morning. Sarah, would you come and join me on the stage, please? Thanks very much. Thanks.
Good morning, everyone. Up bright and early on a Sunday morning, and I can hear you laughing, which was such a good sound to hear from the side. Staying in the hotel last night, I could see all the people I spoke to. I know you've had a hugely busy couple of days and some very enjoyable evenings as well. And I spoke to one of the guys who works in the hotel who said, I've never had a group who go to bed so late and start so early with such energy. So congratulations, clearly on a very successful conference. And coming into here, you know, such a great group of you here. As I was being walked in this morning, I was weaving away through all the corridors to get in backstage and come and sort out a sound check before we kicked off this morning. And I was reminded of going to a conference at that huge Glasgow convention centre, the SECC, for an international grouping of midwives. And I was taken through the corridors, weaved all the way through, ushered very grandly, told I could have some minutes to compose myself, and walked into a cupboard. So I've had a better experience this morning. But I'm delighted to have the opportunity to address you this morning. Delighted to, first of all, thank Rotarians. I've worked with a number of clubs over the years, had them pop up in all kinds of ways, all different events. I've funded a laboratory, a medical research laboratory in Scotland over a number of years, and Rotary clubs all over the country, but particularly in my part of the world, in Scotland and in Fife, have always been very generous at supporting the work that we're doing there at the Jennifer Brown Research Lab. So this is an opportunity I have today to say thank you to all of you. More than that, I know your reach with your work extends through so much, and I see with Engage Rotary and Change Lives that your work's becoming ever deeper and more thoughtful in the way you understand how those experiences benefit you, but also the mark that you leave, and looking more and more at how to have sustainable ways of engaging so that the work that you do and the gifts that you give and the time that you spend is meaningful and lasts very long with the lives of the people that you touch. And I must congratulate you so wholeheartedly on your investment and engagement and persistence with the End Polio campaign. It is truly admirable, and I can see that you have that end in sight. So I am willing you all to the finish line. My charity, Their World, has focused on also trying to engage in some of the big shifts that we can do and how we add up the ways that lots and lots of small acts add together to make a big difference. And our focus has been on global education mostly. The reason why we have picked education is because it's one of those great big challenges that somehow is obvious. Everyone cares about education. Everyone knows the difference that it will make to young people's lives. And yet somehow it hasn't been shifting and moving quickly enough. I know you've started the day with a few laughs, but I'd like to be able to talk to you with a few numbers. 57 million children around the world are not in school at all. A further 250 million children are enrolled in schools, but they're really not learning, and they're really not engaging in improving their literacy levels and maths and numeracy. 774 million adults can't read or write, and 2/3 of them are women. These are big, big numbers, and what seems a seemingly insurmountable challenge. But I know, speaking to Rotarians who are pretty fearless when they say they can end a disease and they can, really address what's happening in some of our most vulnerable and fragile parts of the world with your work with Shelterbox. I know that these are the sort of challenges you like to look square on and see what the difference is that can be made. Even, if I think of something like the Shelterbox work that you do, in those situations with humanitarian assistance, it's always been the first to go in there is to make sure there's shelter, there's food, there's, it's safe, and there's basic healthcare. I think what we're starting to understand now, and what's so important, is quite often where you have that complete upheaval and families' lives are changed because of conflict as they're recovering post-conflict or through a natural disaster, they're moving to somewhere away from something, children seeing things they almost certainly shouldn't be seeing in their lives, and settling somewhere that should be temporary, but might actually be the home for the rest of their childhood, living in a refugee camp or in temporary housing. So education is now seen increasingly important part of the humanitarian assistance that goes in the front line to make sure that people are safe, that they're fed, that they're warm, they have access to water and sanitation and the healthcare that they need, but that there's a plan very, very quickly to know how children can be grouped together, how teachers within that refugee population can engage and be teaching them. This has an enormous impact on their emotional well-being, on reducing the trauma of their circumstances, and also, if they're going to be there for a while, for starting to engage in what will count as their new normal childhood and the opportunities they might have. So I've just come back, literally come back overnight from some meetings in Washington, D.C. It's the time of year when the World Bank meets and the IMF for their annual spring meetings, which is all the finance ministers descending in one place to figure it all out. And, quite a job they all have. But we've had the opportunity to engage with the UN General Secretary Ban Ki-moon and with the President of the World Bank, Jim Kim, who are both very, very committed to education and to seeing through the promise that was made with the Millennium Development Goals to have every single child in school and learning by the end of 2015. So that's our big challenge of those 57 million children with less than 2 years to achieve it. So the World Bank would gather together a terrific group of young people with global youth ambassadors there who were there presenting their case, hearing the voices of 16, 17, 18-year-olds as they presented reasons why they felt they needed an opportunity for education and not to be married in their early teens or engaging in child labor and never having the opportunity to learn to read and write. So in that spirit, I'm able to come and address you today with the Rotarians. What they launched in Washington, D.C. this week was an education countdown. We're getting to the point where we're just about at the point where there's 500 days to go to that Millennium Development Goal deadline, where we promised, as a nation of countries through the UN, that we would have every single child in school and learning by the end of 2015. So the education countdown has started now. And as every single young person stood up and as they stood there and looked at the UN Secretary General and said, "Can we count on you?" And they looked at all the ministers there and said, "Can we count on you?" So I guess I'm here to also ask and extend that same message to all of you. So what I'd like to do is to show you a short film. It's a short film that shows you some of our strongest, most passionate youth campaigners, but also the challenge that they faced and how this movement that's starting for young people to say they want that right to access the opportunity to learn and to unlock the potential in their lives. So this video that I'm going to show you is all about girls and girls with books and why we think they're the new superpower.
One child, one teacher, one book, and one pen can change the world. Education is the only solution. Education first. In India, innocent and poor children are victims of child labor. Many schools have been destroyed in Nigeria. In many parts of the world, especially Pakistan and Afghanistan, terrorism, wars, and conflicts stop children to go to their schools.
there was a heat I have felt. Then I don't remember anything. I don't think anybody can alive there who was sitting at the back. You know, the bad dreams, the nightmares, and I think it was a nightmare. I was swelled, my face was totally swelled, and my hands were swelled and burned. I can feel the pain. We have to adopt change. Let your women get education. It's their human right.
We call upon all governments to ensure free, compulsory education all over the world for every child. We realize the importance of light when we see darkness. We realize the importance of our voice when we are silenced. The Taliban shot me on the left side of my forehead. They shot my friends too.
तो स्कूल से वापसी पे दोपहर के टाइम हम वापसी पे आ रहे थे। हमारी स्कूल बस को किसी ने रोका। पीछे कोई शख्स आया, मेरे दोस्त से मलाला पे शूट किया, उसके बाद मुझ पे किया। बहुत सारा खून पड़ा हुआ था। अब पुलिस के बगैर तो जाने नहीं देता कि नहीं आपके साथ पुलिस। तो वो बाइक पे होते हैं, हमारे साथ जाते हैं। जब वापस आए वही बात और वही जगह उसी रास्ते से गुजरना पड़ता था, तो बहुत डर सा लग रहा था क्योंकि कहीं फिर ऐसा ना हो जाए। या क्यों हम नहीं तालीम हासिल कर सकते, या क्यों हम लड़कों से पीछे रहे। हमें उनके मुकाबला ही जाना चाहिए। हमें भी दम है, हम भी तालीम हासिल कर सकते हैं। तो उसी वजह से मलाला ने टफ हालात में भी, ऐसे भी हालात में ही लड़कियों की तालीम के बारे में आवाज उठाई।
The Taliban, they thought that the bullet would silence us, but they failed. And out of that silence came thousands of voices.
This has caught the imagination and the attention and the sympathy and compassion of the entire world.
तो मेरा बचपन से ही ख्वाब था कि मैं डॉक्टर बनूं, और अगर मैं अपनी तालीम जारी ना रखूं और स्कूल ना जाऊं तो मैं किस तरह अपना ख्वाब पूरा कर सकती हूँ।
We're so pleased that you're here. You're such a courageous girl.
इल्म एक ऐसी रोशनी है कि जिसकी वजह से इंसान इंसान है, वरना उसके बिना कुछ भी नहीं है।
Let us pick up our books and our pens. They are our most powerful weapons. Education is the only solution. Education first.
moment where Shazia lands in Britain and comes to meet Malala was right here in Birmingham last year. And we were so privileged to see us there and to be here in Birmingham to welcome that brave young woman to come and to be with her friend here. Now, Shazia was just with us in Washington and addressing the meeting with the Secretary General. But Malala has been hard at work with her exams here in Birmingham. But she is here today to join you with the Rotarians. And I'm delighted to introduce you to one of the bravest girls in the world. Malala, will you come and join us? So that was a bit of a surprise, wasn't it? I was in the program, but Malala was not. But I know that she is delighted to join you here. So Malala, I understand your father, Zia Udin, who's here with us, is also a Rotarian.
Yes, I'm very happy to be here, first of all, and thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you so much to the Rotary Club as well, because it's such a great opportunity for me to speak for education. And we also had this Rotary Club in Swat as well, and my father was a part of it, my father was a member of it, and we heard so much about it, and we do appreciate the great works they do.
Thank you. So Malala, seeing that film, how does it make you feel to think back of your time? I know you must miss your country very much, but also to know that so many people have been so inspired by the fight that you've taken up for education.
Well, it's quite hard for me to live in Birmingham. There are many reasons, for example, the cold weather. But I do miss my home. I do miss Swat, the beauty of Swat. And I could not imagine that on this world there would be a place where you cannot see mountains. And I saw it. And so it was quite surprising that there are no mountains in Birmingham. There's like not a beautiful river or lush green hills. So, but still, Birmingham is a very nice place. Its people are nice. They support me. And I think that's the great thing about it.
I know the British people have certainly welcomed you into their hearts here. Yes. So talk to us about your passion for universal education. From a very young age, you've been so persistent in speaking up for education. Why do you think it's so important?
I think we already saw it in the video as Shazia talks about education, how much it is important for her to fulfill her dreams to become a doctor. The same was my situation when we were in Swat. We faced terrorism, and at that time it became totally impossible for me to become what I wanted to be and to become a doctor or to fulfill my dreams at that time. So we thought that we cannot live in such a barbaric and in such a dark situation. We need to speak up for our rights. And at that time, more than 400 schools were blasted, women were killed and they were flogged. Also, many people were killed at that time. So it was quite a difficult situation to live in. And most of all, they also banned education. No girl could go to school. And women were stopped from going to market. So they snatched our freedom from us. They were not thinking of any development. The terrorists were totally against development and against progress. But at that time, we did speak. And we thought that if we remain silent, then we would have to live in such a barbaric situation forever. So the better option was to speak.
And I know that Gordon visited Pakistan just a week ago, meeting with the Prime Minister there, looking at the different plans and his role as education envoy. And I know that he addressed an audience of 2,000 young girls who were all there, inspired by you, but also feeling that they are freer to talk about education now, that something's changing, that something's starting to move. Do you think is that what you hear when you're able to speak to people back home?
Well, Gordon Brown is doing a lot for education, and we totally support him in his campaign. And also, he has supported me a lot, and he's supporting Shazia and Kainat as well, and he's doing a great work. And also, we must appreciate the girls in Pakistan because they love education. They wanted their country to be peaceful. They wanted education in every part of the country. So there is a kind of feeling that people think that girls in Pakistan, they all just don't want to go to school, or there are terrorists, so they don't like education. But the fact fact is that girls do support education. They do not like the terrorists at all. We are totally against terrorism, and we want peace.
Great. Well, it sounded just from what we were hearing from that recent visit that things were starting to move, but obviously the challenge is so great in many other parts of the world. What do you say to children who don't have a chance to go to school or who don't feel that that's ever going to be part of their future? What's your message to those children?
I think I'll give them my own example. When I was in Swat, for a second I thought that, would I be in my home forever? Would I be just growing up, washing dishes, cleaning the house, and then getting older, and then getting married and have children? And would a day come that I wouldn't be what I want myself to be? I wouldn't fulfill my dreams? I have passed through this situation, but I tried to fight for myself and for the girls of Swat, and we proved it, that when you take an action, when you stand up, you can fight against all the problems in your society. And this is my message to every child who cannot go to school, that they should stand up for their rights. They should never remain silent, but they should stand up.
And it's also about having hope, I think, that you have to never give up having hope. And education is a way to always have hope that there will be something better for you.
Yes, I do agree with you, and also you are doing a great work, A World at School, and also there are many other organizations who are doing a lot for the education of children, and as you already said, that there are 57 million children who are out of school. So I think by working together, by collective working, we can fight these problems, and we can help children to go to school. So I think everyone has got a passion, everyone has got this target that yes, every child should go to school. So now what we need is to work together and fight for it.
And your charity, Malala Fund, which is part of the World at School movement, has focused on particularly trying to find girls scholarships so that they really have the opportunity to go all the way. Why do you think it is that girls are left behind? What are the barriers for girls that are different to those for boys?
The first thing is that there are cultural norms and traditions. In our country, girls are taught to be housewives or just taking care of the houses, and people don't even trust girls that they can be doctors, or they can be teachers, or they can be journalists or politicians. This is the concept. This is just what's in people's brain, that girls are always weak and girls can't do anything. But the fact is that if we look at women, we have a great example, Sarah Brown, and we have so many other examples who are doing a lot and who are contributing to society. And I think it shows that women has the ability to do work. It does not mean that we just need a strong body or a muscular body, or it does not mean that the person who's got more like muscles, that person is powerful. I think it depends on our personality, on our heart, and on our ideas, what we do. So I think we should just forget this concept of who is stronger in the muscles and in the body, but we should think of the person's skills.
I know when the goal first started, when the Millennium Development Goals were first established, they had a much bigger number. It started at about 120 million children who were not at school. And as that's moved on, that was many, many more girls than boys. As we look at those numbers now, where we are today, truthfully, nearly the same numbers of boys as girls start school. We've just about got it equal with, of the 57 million, it's roughly half and half. But the difficulty for girls is they don't get to stay in school. There's an amazing statistic that says that if a girl, for each year that a girl in Africa gets to stay at school, it will increase her earnings potential by 10 to 20%. I mean, that's an enormous amount. I mean, that should make governments think, this is going to make economic sense for our country, never mind each individual life and how precious it is.
Yes, I totally agree with you. And also, I think that there would be a lot of NGOs, there would be a lot of organizations who are working. But the thing is that now we also need to force the governments, not like in a violent way, but we need to tell them that they should spend a lot on education rather than spending on weapons and other things, because this is how you make your country, this is how you make your country successful and bright. So that's why this is our request to every country, that they should give full attention to education and they should spend a lot on it.
And also here in Britain, we're very generous through our own Department for International Development at supporting engagement with other countries. And I know we've always really valued our relationship that we have with other countries around the world and the opportunity to work in partnership with them on the development there. So there's also that relationship where your call is to national governments, but also for the opportunity that some of the wealthier nations have to engage with and support. But these are all the big government pieces of it. What difference do you think we really make as individuals when we act? I know Rotarians will, as in their clubs and in their communities, pick what they support, pick projects that they're passionate about. But do you believe that those small acts make a difference too?
I wrote a diary and I talked to media channels, and that's what I could do at that time. Some people try to speak through media, some people try to donate, some people just try to stand on the road and raise a banner and speak. So there are different ways in which we can help children to go to school, and in which we can raise children's voices for education. So I think your contribution and your support is needed for this goal. And I think if we work together, if we try to be active in this mission, then I'm sure that we would achieve this goal. And I think that the small acts matter a lot. And even if you just say like, we support you, that's a big thing.
That certainly made a difference in Pakistan with the outpouring of support for you in the wake of the tragedy on the bus. People mobilized petitions around the world, particularly online. And I remember at one point we were adding up the numbers for it, and it was 30 million tweets in 1 week. And there was the petitions that were gathered in Pakistan. The woman who had organized the household surveys going from door to houses also added in the petition for Malala as she went around. And at the end of it, produced a petition with 4 million signatures on it. And in addition to that, some of them were from women and young people who couldn't write, so they had used their thumbprint to make their mark on the paper to add their support. But all of that was gathered up and taken through to the Pakistan government, who absolutely had to take notice of it and had actually changed the law at the time. So your country went from a time of there being no legal obligation for any child to go to school, and it is now the law in Pakistan that 6 to 14-year-olds should be going to school. So now we have the foundation to make that possible.
Yes, I think Pakistan has started doing a lot, and now they have increased the amount that they spend on education in their budget up to 4%, and I think that's great. And also, the people of Pakistan supported me a lot when I was shot, and they raised the banners of I am Malala. They did not say that we are the Taliban or we are the terrorists, but they said I am Malala, and they supported me. And they had rallies and they had protests, and they came out to speak not only for me but for every girl who were out of school and for every child who cannot get education. And they said that we want education in our country.
And of course you were in Birmingham, where you were looked after well, and we're so delighted that you've made this full recovery. But why don't you share with everyone here your experience of going to the United Nations and speaking there on your 16th birthday last July, and addressing they'd cleared out the room. There were just all young people in the room instead of the usual suspects. And when we celebrated Malala Day.
I was informed, I think 2-3 months before, that you are going to have a speech at the UN, and my father was telling me, write the speech. And I say, okay, I want to do my homework. Tomorrow is physics test, so I can't do it today, and tomorrow is chemistry test. So, I was finding excuses, and I couldn't write. I was quite busy in doing homeworks and those things. So 1 week was left, and my father said, I warned you again, write the speech. If not, then it's your problem. And so I wrote the speech. And when I wrote it, I said it to my father as usual. He's a bit emotional, so he cried. And then I just wrote the speech at school, and I tried to write what was in my heart. And when I went to the stage in the UN on the 12th of July, and when I looked at the 400 young people, at that time I just felt that I'm not only talking to 400 people, but rather I'm talking to millions. And now they're listening to me, and I should speak what's in my heart, and I should raise the voice of those millions of children who are out of school. And that's why I just closed my eyes and I spoke.
Well, we heard some of your words in the film, and I know it moved everybody that day. You talk about your father, Zia Udin, who I know is here with you today. He's been such an important influence for you. We're always talking about, the importance of girls and the importance of, the work that women do and the voices they have and that investment in girls. But your father has been so important, and we need to call on men everywhere to contribute and understand that. He obviously is such a role model and an inspiration for you. Tell us a bit about your dad. Just embarrass him a little as he's sitting in the audience.
My father is a very great father because he always supported me in my campaign of education. And he made me to believe that, yes, I have the ability to speak, and I'm not weak. And I have the power, I have the strength to speak up for the girls who are out of school. And he strengthened me at the time when we were facing terrorism in Swat. And he still supports me, and I have learned a lot from him because in Swat, he was not afraid of anyone. He was speaking for peace, he was speaking for women's rights, and he continues it. He had a very nice TED Talk as well, and he's a great father. And also he's treating me and my brothers with equality, which my brother thinks is not equality because they said that they are discriminated, but I think it is. So my father is a great father, and and the best thing he did was he sent me to school. He didn't stop me like many other fathers who stopped their children from going to school in Mingora. And I was a girl because there are many girls who cannot go to school, and their parents think that it's not important for their future, and girls are only born to be married, they're only born for working in the houses. They have not even the skills to go outside and to show what abilities they have. So my father is a great father who gave me the freedom to be what I am, and he just let me like a free bird, as he says.
Well, so moving forward, you will obviously stay committed to campaigning, but you also have your own schoolwork and your own exams to do. I think you have exams coming up round the corner. What is it? What are your hopes and dreams now? What will you? Of course, you'll always maintain your passion for girls' education, but as you go forward with your exams, you're having to make those choices for, university and other options. What are your thoughts about your future?
My first goal is to get straight A's in my GCSE. Then I'm hopeful that I'll get admission in a good university. And my own passion is to get high quality education myself as well, and I want to learn more and more. And I also want to learn from people as well, because whenever I meet someone, I just find something special in every person, and I try to learn from them the good things they have. And I think we should continue learning. And also, through the Malala Fund, we are trying to work more for those children who are out of school. And we started our first project in Swat, and for 40 girls who are out of school and who are involved in domestic child labor. And now these girls are in schools, they are learning, and now they have dreams, and they are hopeful that they will fulfill their dreams. And also we started our next project in Jordan, and for those Syrian refugees who are out of school for 3 years, and that's a lot. So we think that if we don't save these children now, then it would be a generation lost. So these are the projects that we are already doing, and we are hopeful that we can do more and more for the children who are out of school. And I think these are small things. These look very small, because if we think about 57 million children, I'm working for like maybe less than 100, but still we should do it. And if we work together, if different organizations, they come, they sit together, and they say it should be our goal, and we should do it together, and it's our mission, then I think we can educate millions.
Of course, and this has been the movement with the World at School, is to make sure that we're combining two things, is those on-the-ground projects that are supporting individual schools and individual pupils with the work that we need to do to persuade and change minds of the political leaders and the education leaders who can actually make sure they educate everybody. So that you were talking about the Syrian refugees. Here in Britain, we've been so moved by what's happened in Syria and so generous actually in contributing to refugees as they've come out and settled in the surrounding countries. And I know we've been working with you on the different programs and plans to help Syrian refugees and making sure that we're persuading the host countries to give those children the opportunity to go to school. And there's an amazing new plan with the Education Without Borders proposal, which is, it's a very simple solution to run a double shift through the schools. And Lebanon, which has over 400,000 refugee children from Syria hosted within the country, has agreed that it will open up its schools in Lebanon so that the Lebanese children are able to go early morning through to early afternoon. And after they leave, the Syrian children can come in with their own teachers, who of course are also refugees, and be able to carry on learning with their curriculum, because of course everyone hopes so much that they have that opportunity to go back someday, but that they'll finish their own school in their language with their curriculum. And so everybody's been mobilizing so much together to try to make that happen. UNICEF have worked very fast to come up with all the technical work for it since the World at School report was published. And just this week in Washington, they've been signing off budgets with every single nation that can, contributing a bit of money to make it possible. So the first 190,000 children of that group will be going to school. So you can get to those big numbers, but it's all come from those small acts. You're starting the work in Jordan, and of course we hope that we'll get to Turkey and some of the other surrounding countries. But it just shows when you're faced with the challenge of, I mean, don't forget, these children were living, you know, very nice, ordinary lives and going to school every day before their lives were completely turned upside down by the war there. And so, of course, they're also desperate to resume their education. So without needing to build schools and start afresh, actually there's this opportunity to be able to run this double shift school. So I think we're all hoping very much that as a first time, to do this, because it will have quite an impact on the Lebanese population. So there's a great generosity of spirit from them to allow that to happen. That if this works, then there's opportunity to do it elsewhere where there are other children who've been displaced from their homes. So this is one of those moments where you see the small acts adding up to making that very big difference. So Malala, it's been a pleasure to talk to you. I know that you have been pleased to come and talk to the Rotarians because they hold a place in the hearts of your own family. But I know that the president of the Rotary Club of Great Britain and Ireland would like to come out and to speak with you for a moment and to address you. So if we can...
There are some benefits to this job. Malala, everybody in this room thinks that what you've done is fantastic. I know you don't think it is because you're so down to earth, but you're doing a fantastic thing. And we have decided that we will award you a Rotary Young Citizen Award.
Oh, thank you.
So that we can show our appreciation. So, there you go. With your name on it.
Thank you so much.
And a certificate to go with it.
Thank you, that's great.
Thank you so much. Please. Okay. Do you want to add anything, or are you quite happy? Can you add anything?
Well, sure, I love talking. I'm very thankful to you for giving me this prestigious award. And it's not only just made up of glass and award and just a piece of glass. It's an encouragement for me. It's a great support for me, and it helps me to continue this campaign for girls' education. And I'm very thankful to all of you for listening to me. I know it's quite boring as well, but I know because you would be hearing this education again and again. But I think it is very important, and I hope you would have tolerated me. And thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for listening.
You got more to say? Don't go away. Okay.
Thank you.
I'd like to give you a personal memento of the conference, something to remember Rotary by. So there's a small gift for you, and one for you. And thank you. Thank you to Sarah as well. We're concentrating on Malala, but thank you.
Thank you so much for having us here. It's been a real privilege to be with the Rotary Club of Great Britain and Ireland.
Thank you very much.